He walked out on you, he ghosted you, he left you, he disappeared, he vanished. And you're left wondering and confused, why did he leave? Have you been discarded? Have you been with a toxic guy, a narcissist, and then he just up and left? Maybe it wasn't a fast leave, maybe it was a slow leave. Maybe he slowly pulled away and pushed you away and said he no longer was interested, he didn't care. But ultimately, we're talking about a discard here. When we're talking about a discard, yes, it's like a breakup, but it's more of like discarding, like you throw something in the trash, because that's what it feels like. You feel like not just the piece of being used and abused, but you feel like you're worthless. Think of it like you're in the kitchen, you're working on something, you take the meat out of the packaging and you put it on the plate to be able to start cooking it, and you throw that packaging away. Like it becomes garbage. You're no longer needing it. Then when you feel inside of the relationship, you look back and you realize this is what it's felt like. It's felt like he's used you for a certain purpose, for a certain reason. He's got to a place where he's used and abused you for specific things, and then he's discarded you. Thrown you away like garbage. Thrown you away like you weren't worth anything at all. Have you felt this way? Because if you're dealing with a toxic guy in your life, many times this will happen. And you trying to figure out you and trying to figure out how to heal from this feels impossible when he just left you. The reason why a lot of times it feels impossible is because we've put so much of your focus and perspective into this relationship. Now, hear me, that's not necessarily a bad thing, at least initially. You being able to love and connect and invest in another person, that's not a bad thing. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But it becomes a bad thing when you lose yourself. When you no longer know who you are, when you're no longer able to validate who you are by you, and it becomes the narcissist being the signpost for your life. The level, the rating of who you actually are, the value of who you actually are is now based solely just on him. This is the piece that you have to understand is when you're with a toxic person, he will try to make all of you focus on all of him to confuse everything so that you remain stuck. But then when he leaves, you're left with feeling of nothing. Because all the time, the money, the energy, the love, the care, everything that you invest in the relationship, it feels like it just went up in smoke. And then you look at him and he's moved on to the next person. What's it trigger in your mind? Oftentimes it will trigger a piece of worthlessness because you look at him moving on to the next person and you wonder, why is he giving her everything that I wanted? Why is he leaving me to go be with her? Why did he discard me? And then ultimately boiling down to the biggest question, what's wrong with me? Consider for a moment just this simple thought. You have this thought here, what's wrong with me? And I want you to consider this. What if nothing is? Just that. What if nothing is wrong with you? I'm not saying you have to believe it in the moment. Just think on it. What if nothing is actually wrong with you? And if you think on it just for a minute, I want you to think on it 1 minute longer. And even right now, I want you to take a piece of paper and write down at the top, what if nothing is wrong about me? Like you feel worthless, you feel empty, you feel confused, you feel lost, you feel abused, and you just left, and you're like left being like, I feel worthless. What if nothing's wrong about you? What if you're not worthless? Write that down on a piece of paper right now. And then underneath it, I want you to write this word, evidence. And I want you to build evidence to make that true. What if nothing's wrong about me? Okay, what's the evidence that proves that? Pause the video, write down the list. Like this is a piece of just, hey, practically do this and see what comes up. What is wrong with me? Write down the word evidence and then start writing down all of the evidence that proves that nothing is wrong with you. Do it right now. Pause the video, do it right now. Because I want you to actually experience a piece that has to do with reframing. You are stuck in a frame, a view, an idea, a thought, a story. You're stuck in a certain frame of reality that tells you that you are worthless. But the problem is the thing that is telling you that you're worthless is not the ultimate standard of value. In fact, he's kind of a piece of shit. So the fact of the matter that you're evaluating yourself by a piece of shit really could be the first awareness piece. Wait a second. This might not be the best measuring stick, this pile of crap that's on the floor. Do you get what I'm saying? So I want you to consider that question, like, what if there's nothing wrong with you? What would be the evidence that would actually support that based on how he showed up? But when you're discarded, it gets really difficult to pull this apart. So when we talk through the concept of reframing, I want you to consider a window frame, right? You have a window frame. You have a place where the glass sits into the wall and it's framed in so that the glass is contained so it doesn't just fall out. But that glass and that frame around it becomes a window frame that you can then look through. Now, if you're living in a house that has 4 walls and it has windows on all 4 walls, you have 4 different frames you can look out of, 4 different perspectives, 4 different directions that you can actually look. So I can come to the front of my house and I can look out that frame, that window frame, and I can see a version of reality. I can see a perspective. I can see the road. Then I can come over on the left side and I can open up the window and I can look out that way and I can see another house. And I can open up the window this way and I can look out this way and I can see another house and a playground. And I can look out the back window and I can see my daughter in the playground and a tent. Like, I can see a bunch of different things. But every window has a different perspective on the outside. Now, if you have someone that grew up only in one single bedroom and they never moved anywhere and they only looked out one single window, they would view that window as being their reality. Versus someone else is walking through the house being like, no, that's not the only reality. Like, there's multiple sides to this house. You can see other windows. You can see different perspectives. The problem is when you're in a toxic relationship, you do not see different perspectives. You have been sold a lie. You have been sold a version of reality that keeps you trapped in one single place, in one single room, looking out one frame of reality, thinking this is true. What if I told you it's not? But that you have been looking in a frame of reality that so far has kept you used, abused, confused, and lost, and it keeps you stuck looking through this certain frame. So, in order to do so, we need to break the frame. And breaking the frame means you simply need to see that what you're seeing might not be 100% true. So when you look at the piece of him discarding you and you wonder, hey, I feel really awful because he discarded me, and that means ultimately to my core I feel like I have no worth and I have no value, consider that that's one window that you're looking out of. That's it. Instead, ask yourself the question, what if that's not true? If it's not true, what would be possible? If it's not 100% true, what might be the alternate reality that you're just not looking at? What might be the piece that you're not thinking of? You see, we mess with narcissism. It's all mind games. Like, the best way people describe it is like they've been with a narcissist. They feel like they've been mind fucked. Like, they're completely confused, completely lost. That's because you've been stuck in a certain room. He's put the bars on all the other sides of the room and says, this is the only window you're allowed to look out of. Because he's on the other side controlling what you see. The puppet master controlling your perspective, your perception of your own reality. So when you're in this moment, I want you to consider, what if the frame of reality, the things that you've been viewing, what if they're not true? What if the story you're telling yourself that you're worthless and that's why he discarded you, what if that's not true? The fact that you don't feel like you have value or you're not good enough, what if that's not true? What would be true if it was false? All of these are different exercises that you can write down, starting to build a case. Because if you start to learn how to build a case for the truth, you start to build a case for the facts, you will actually find freedom. And we do this with hundreds of women that come work with Raw Motivations that say, hey, I am stuck in this prison, in this room, and I've only seen this certain reality for the longest period of time that tells me that I'm not good enough, that I'm worthless, that I have no value, that I'll never find someone, that I have to go to him for validation, that I can't make my own decisions. All of those women are stuck in a frame of reality. And until we break you out of it so you can see a different window, a different perspective, a different idea of what's going on, you will not be free. Because you're stuck. So when we talk about reframing reality, we talk about changing the perspective. We're not talking about it in a way to manipulate or create another story that's false. We're trying to be able to show you that there's more things that are true in your life than what you want to believe. Let's say, for instance, you feel like you have no value. I want you to consider if you sat down and you started to script out all of your accomplishments, all of the things you've done professionally, how your body has changed, how your relationships have changed, how you've grown, your spirituality. If you started to list out all of the accomplishments, all of the things, you could actually start to build a case of where you stack irrefutable evidence about who you actually are. And all of a sudden you realize that there's a giant list of everything that you've accomplished and everything that you've done. And then there's the narcissist. You're like, I have been trapped in the room for so long that I forgot about all these things. I forgot about my accomplishments. I forgot that I'm amazing at my job. I forgot that I've been amazing with a lot of my friends. I forgot that I have a wonderful family that cares and supports, but they're frustrated because I keep getting stuck with this guy. I forgot about, and you start to realize you forgot about so many things that actually do validate yourself because he put you in a room, he locked you in, he put the prison bars, and he told you, look out this window and I will control what you see. In order to actually start working through and reprocessing where you are with a narcissist and discard, you have to be able to understand first and foremost that what you're believing and the lies you've been told have left you stuck in a certain frame of reality. And unless we start to break that, nothing's going to be free. If you want to understand more about this, what I'm talking about today, if this resonates, if you want to talk to me, you can go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. Would love to talk to you today. If you want to see me draw this out more and have you actually understand this on a whole different level, then go to rawmotivations.com/masterclass. There's a masterclass I run every week where we bring people in so I can actually show you these concepts and try to break it down in a way that makes the most sense. Hopefully I've explained it well today, but I want you to understand until we help you see a different version of your reality, you will only think that what you're seeing is true. The problem is when you're in a toxic relationship, 9 times out of 10, it's never true. But until you see a different version of reality, you'll keep thinking that that one window on one side of the house is all that the reality that there is outside.